I reviewed the Ironbreaker 04 and finally it is time to step a bit further. And with not just one, but two Ironbreakers. The boxes follow the same style we saw in the past, with a nice open cover and artwork on the sides. Let's see these cool plastic eggheads. The 01 looks to me the cool variant of this pair, probably because of the color palette based on these military green tones. The plastic clamshell and packaging seem also to be pretty standard for the line, and it also looks like it is mostly intact. No pieces have fallen off, which is a very good sign. These green look very nice on this mecha, and I really like them. Let's free it from its plastic clamshell and of course, it was too good to stick together. Fortunately, it is quite easy to reassemble everything in place. Better to have a piece that can detach by design than broken pieces, I guess. On the other side, there are the accessories and weapons, a shoulder-mounted cannon, a handheld machine gun, and the omnipresent blade for slicing at close range. We will take a look at these later, but the toolbox for the perfect mech warrior seems to be all here. Nice. I like these JOYTOY mechas, even if they are in 1/25 scale, which is not really my favorite. Most of my collections, in fact, are in 1/18 scale, so these pilots are too small. But after collecting so many of them, now I have a good amount that will allow me to build a display of these tiny guys. But the mecha itself looks fine together with other 1/18 figures. And when looking at the details and articulation, we can see that the Ironbreaker design, it is all there. It is a common plastic endoskeleton with different platings and accessories to create different units. They all have these back thrusters and are pretty much headless. There is a small moving installation on top of the cockpit, probably a camera, and the cockpit itself makes up most of the body. All of the Ironbreakers have many articulation points for arms, torso and legs, even if the design may force some constraints. For example, the arms position may make it difficult to pose the gun frontally in a firing position. Knees have double joints and hands have fully articulated with their forefingers. The painting quality never fails to impress me, and this makes no difference. Great weathering and effects on all parts, with clean decals for unit numbers and other signals. While this particular model arrived pretty much assembled, there is a leaflet with instructions for assembling it from scratch. I never used it, unless in the most unfortunate case, where the entire unit arrived in pieces and I was practically rebuilding it. Pilots are always quite unique and very nicely detailed for such tiny figures. They come with pistols and weapons, but I often ignore them because of my fat fingers. But if you like to deal with these tiny soldiers, you may really like these little guys. This one has a cool beard and moustache, and let's assume that he is a deadly ace. What looks like to be the head of the mecha is also the entry for the cockpit where our pilot will fit. There is a seat that can be removed so you can make your pilot fit more comfortably, lots of details both on the seat, even on the back, and on the inside. Potentially without the chair you could fit a 1/18 figures inside. It is a nice display option, but I never used it so far. It really depends on how you are setting the stage. After assembling guns and falling off pieces, here it is our assault mecha in all of its splendor. The articulations, even if not ratcheted, are quite stiff and can keep their poses, but I guess that they will become loose if abused. It never happened to me, but I'm not a person that changes their poses frequently. But as it is, it can stand without any stability issues. I very like the design. It is simple and clean and also very cool. A sci-fi war machine made for actual combat, not just the show. So for me it is a big thumbs up so far. Looking at the weapons, the assault mecha has this short rifle machine gun, nicely painted and with a lot of details. The barrel is only superficially drilled, but at least the seam lines are not that evident as usual. Let's not waste any more time, let's make it ready for action, starting with the simplest pose, holding the rifle and standing ready to move. Articulations are good enough for this case. Arms and hands can solidly hold the rifle in position. The shoulder blades can move up and down a bit depending on your needs. You can certainly achieve T-poses if you want. The more I look at the overall aesthetic, the more I like it. The color palette especially really gives the feeling of a military machine made for active duty. And the painting is great without any sloppy errors. I think that on mecha units JOYTOY really is at its best. And while the hands can have some issues in holding some guns and weapons, in this case they are able to hold them good enough. The only weak point is the wrist that tends to point to the ground under the weapon's weight, so you will need to overcompensate with the arm at elbow level. It may be annoying if that is just the pose you want, but it works for me. Such dynamic poses require more space in my shelf, so I often pose them in more relaxed or holding weapons poses. It would have been nice to have some peg on the weapon with the peg hole on the arm to make the entire assembly more solid, like it happens for example with the steel bonds, but JOYTOY seems to think differently. Despite this, the legs are quite stiff and can even hold some extreme poses like running and standing on one leg. I was quite amazed to be able to achieve that, but guys, it is possible. Just don't try to make it stand on a rotating moving platform. But at least we can see that the mecha has some good posing options, at least for the legs. Moving to the Grand type now. The white non-BS unit with overall white painting. Maybe for winter combat. Everything could be, but looking at the packaging it is pretty much the same with the main unit and equipment in 2 separate layers. And our omnipresent leaflet. Let's extract it and get ready for close examinations and for science purposes. And the first step is to assemble the little bits that fall off during the shipping journey. The arms seem to be particularly easy to get out of their slots, especially when posing in firing position. It is a limit in the design since the unit has no butterfly joints, but better than they just get out of the socket than breaking. Once fully assembled, we can notice the close similarities in the mecha design with the other models and the longer sniper-like rifle weapon. The blade is the same, and looking at the rest of the unit, the endoskeleton is also the same. In fact, we have the same articulation points, hands design and overall shape. Different color, but same qualities, good and bad. For example, I love the weather painting and this O2 makes no exception. Detachable plates and tools also allow for some degree of look customization if you so prefer. The ammo boxes can be separately plugged inside the torso slots. There is a clip inside to ensure that they don't fall off. It only requires some juggling with the fingers to make it click. I only collect one of each model, so I try to make them as complete as possible according to their equipment options. But I could imagine different displays where there is a unit being repaired, another being rearmed, and maybe even a display with a complete kit bash from parts coming from different units. The good thing of these mecha designs, including other lines like the steel bonds, is that you can mix different parts according to your tastes. There is plenty of opportunities for customizers. You can see here the simple and effective peg-based mechanism, which is universally used in all models and ensure cross-interoperability. The blade looks to me the same as the O1. It is a big knife or a short sword, depending on your preferences, and it is neatly made, in line with the rest of the painting, and can be plugged on any slot if not wielded. The rifle has a modular design, so you may want to use the default long sniper rifle look, or maybe swap the long barrel with a shorter muzzle, which also is provided. It is a nice opportunity to differentiate the look of the weapon, especially since posing in a sniping position is quite difficult given the shoulder joints. You can probably get other combinations by removing or adding more pieces, but in the end, you will always have a variation of either the short or the long-barreled gun. Unplugging and replugging the parts is not difficult, but you may need to struggle a bit the first time that you try it. and even want to hit the part a bit to ease the operation, but besides that, you can really mix and match parts and build a slight variations of the base design. The pilot is another tiny figure, highly detailed with good articulations, as the other one. As for any other model, you can put the pilot inside the cockpit, but I personally prefer to show them side to side with their mechas in my display shelves. All pilots have aesthetic differences like face sculpt, colors and armor design, but they all share a similar look and feel. Fully assembled, the mecha is quite a stable platform like the O1. It can keep the poses without any issues, with the obvious design limitations for the shoulders, because of the lack of butterfly joints. I like the simple yet effective war machine look and feel. There is plenty of details without being excessive. I would call this a sober mecha design. Fully armed, it has quite some options for loadout configurations. For example, I like to make him stand at rest with the rifle and the blade plugged on the back. Again, you have quite some options about where and how to configure the weapons, and this is a nice bonus for the design, given the amount of slots that you have across the entire line. But at least in this way it does not take too much space on my shelves. Of course, we can also go for a more aggressive pose with dual-wielded rifle and ready to strike, and still being compact enough to fit in the shelf. At their essence, both the O1 and the O2 are the same mecha design. You can swap parts among them, like armor plates, weapons, and the posing options are the same given the basic endoskeleton is shared by both. I don't understand if this model can fly or just use these back thrusters for big jumps. I will say the latter given the presence of specific models dedicated to fly operation, but you never know. In the end, it is our headcanon. The similarities are particularly evident once we put them side to side for a comparison. There is no real technical limitation on either design, so which one to pick is more of an aesthetic choice, or about what you have in mind. For example, I will think of the O1 as the leader unit directing a group of Grunt O2s in a daring maneuver. But I will stay with just one of each. I don't have that much room available for an entire squadron. While the default pilots look tiny compared to other mechas, when we finally come with some 18 figures, they become more reasonable battle pods, and to be honest I like these proportions more, having the Ironbreakers acting as heavy armored support for other infantry units on the battlefield, but without being overwhelming giants. They have an average price for units of this size, and a great painting quality. Of course, the design may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I am personally quite satisfied. They will look great companions from my other soldier figures and their displays. Having said that, I wish you a nice rest of the day and having fun with your never-ending armies of mechanical monsters. And please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if new.